So I thought I'd do my own review of Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Went to see the film a couple of days ago. Had plenty of people asking me what I actually thought of the film. Tried to do this review before, but because the film's quite convoluted, I ended up getting lost where I was during the review. So I thought I'd try and construct this a little bit better. Overall synopsis of the film: Superman, is he good? Is he bad? Is he somebody that we need? Is he ultimately some sort of alien that could turn on us any moment? Is he outside of the law? Sort of catch-22 situation with him. We've got Batman enters the situation with initially like a as the trailers show and as the beginning of the film shows, he enters the scene, to the viewer at least, when during the events of Man of Steel, when one of his buildings gets blown up, and obviously he enters into it, and it fast forwards to a little bit later on in the future where he holds a grudge. Maybe he thinks that Superman's not the right sort of hero for the world because he lives outside of the law, and that he potentially could be an enemy and he needs to be stopped. Throw into that, you end up with Wonder Woman and all these other sort of convoluted sort of themes that just kind of get chucked in at the end. So I'm going to start with the things that I wasn't particularly keen on about the film. To put it bluntly, the film is too convoluted. It throws in too many ideas. We're led to believe that Gotham and Metropolis are only separated by a harbour, yet somehow the Man of Steel events don't affect Gotham in any way, which kind of doesn't really make any sense. You also have the thing that characters don't seem to know who each other are. For instance, when Batman turns up and he starts branding people, later on in the film he alludes to the fact that he's already defeated the Joker, he's already, defeated a number of bad guys, and that perhaps taking on Superman was the only thing he would ever do of worth in life. Yet when he comes out branding people, nobody seems to know who Batman is. It's as if he's new to the scene, which he obviously wouldn't be. You also get the thing that Clark Kent, obviously working for the Daily Planet, which is meant to be a sort of multinational, massive media corporation, doesn't even seem to know who Bruce Wayne is. Not only does he blow up one of his buildings destroys his building in Man of Steel, but Gotham's meant to be across a harbour where this multi-billionaire with a massive corporation lives, yet Clark Kent has no idea who he is. That just doesn't make any sense. You end up with Gotham, Metropolis, there's a mention of Smallville partway through the film as well chucked in. You've got the two protagonists in Batman and Superman, but then they throw in Lex Luthor, and there's Wayne Enterprises and LexCorp. And they throw in Doomsday and Wonder Woman, and there's bits to do with the Flash appearing and Aquaman, and it's just so many ideas that none of the characters really seem to know what they're doing. I mean, to begin with, the film is led to believe it's quite slow development, and we're led to believe that it's going to be Batman taking on Superman because he's not really sure that Superman's should be doing what he's doing and he needs to be held to account. They chuck in a senator who seems to want to hold Superman accountable to his actions, and we're a democracy and we live by laws, but actually when it comes to stopping Superman, she kind of dithers and does a whole load of nothing. And she kind of seems as if she doesn't even know, she's not sure what her own principles are, so how the hell's the viewer supposed to know? You get some other characters, like some generals pop up. You get the president on the other end of the phone, and there's some people turning keys to launch nuclear missiles. Absolutely insane. All in all, it's kind of anticlimactic, really, because the fight scene, it's a really slow build-up to then the fight scenes include sort of Batman against Superman, which are really cool. And Batman's he goes from wearing a sort of beefy, sort of normal-looking Batman costume to wearing almost like a Space Marine type mech suit to fight Batman, which that costume design is really cool. The fight sequences are really good. You end up with a thing where Lex Luthor as a character, he's clearly a crazy, deranged maniac, really. He seems to have sort of daddy issues or parent issues of some description, wants to just unleash Doomsday to wreak havoc, tries to play off Batman against Superman. I actually quite liked the dynamic of him playing Batman off against Superman, rather than, he goes and he finds kryptonite like he does in every damn Superman film, the unlimited kryptonite. But instead of using it himself, he attempts to goad Batman into fighting Superman, so that either Batman will ultimately kill off Superman and he's rid of him, or Superman will turn into a bad guy and the whole world will turn against him. It doesn't really work. You end up with this weird Spear of Destiny thing going on. Batman ultimately goes to kill Superman, and because they have a mother with the same name, somehow they become friends. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Wonder Woman, it kind of is put in as a almost like a love interest for Bruce Wayne, yet there's no backstory to it other than an old photo from sort of 150 years ago or whatever it is, which is her as well. But then she just turns up for a scrap against Doomsday, which you get no backstory, there's no filler for her. It very much feels like the film was throw as many pieces together as we can, in the hope that obviously we can drum up enough to be able to effectively combat the Avengers. The problem is the Avengers has lots of backstory. All the characters like Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, they all have backstories to them. They all have their own independent films. We know a lot about them. We obviously know a lot about Batman and Superman, but we don't know anything really about Wonder Woman. I know Aquaman's got a film coming out, but again, we don't know anything about him. The Flash, I don't know whether there's a film coming out for him or not. Again, the film, when it introduces, you know, the Flash and Aquaman in like small little sequences, but there is weird dream states that somehow the Flash seems to be involved in, where he kind of gives Bruce Wayne some sort of weird epiphany about what's going to happen in the future and why he needs to combat Superman, and that's never explained and doesn't really make any sense. There's lots of jumping from past to future to weird dream sequences. Kind of it's disjointed and doesn't really seem to make any effect, and a lot of the characters don't kind of seem to know what they're doing for lots of the film until you get to this climactic sort of fight against Doomsday, who basically looks like the weird troll thing from Lord of the Rings, but with weird magical powers. You get a sequence where they fire nuclear missiles, just arbitrarily start firing nuclear missiles at Superman and Doomsday in the upper atmosphere. I can't imagine any president that would just go, yeah, just fire off, and who cares? I mean, all in all, I mean, there were some good bits about the film. It lays good groundwork, obviously, for a potential Justice League film, which could be quite good. I mean, I love the Avengers. I think they've done really well with them. The first Avengers, personally, I thought was better than the second one. Whether Justice League can do quite as well, especially considering that the fleshwork around the characters is not quite as good. I mean, this makes the film sound overly negative. I would recommend people go and watch it. It's not a terrible film by any stretch, but it feels very one-dimensional in the way they've done it. They've chucked an awful lot at it, made it very convoluted. Parts that are good, I actually think Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman is really quite good. Obviously, we've had years of Christian Bale as this sort of brooding, dark Batman. Ben Affleck's is slightly different. He's still quite a dark, menacing Batman, but he's more, if I have to kill you to get the job done, then I'll kill you to get the job done. He's not as sort of, I have to keep people alive and you can't kill at any costs. He's not quite like that. But he, again, isn't as dark as some of the maybe Marvel characters. Obviously, we've seen recently the Punisher in Daredevil. The Daredevil series, actually, I'd recommend it to anybody that wants to watch it. The Punisher is really quite brutal in that. So Batman doesn't quite go as dark as that. I'm kind of disappointed that the cinemas didn't give you the option to watch the R-rated version with the additional 30 minutes of content that's missing. I'm going to obviously have to watch that when it comes out on DVD. It would be interesting to see if that fleshes it out a little bit, adds bits that you don't really know, or shows you characters that you've seen in maybe a slightly different light. All in all, I think it sets it up quite well. It'd be interesting to see how they develop Lex Luthor's character. He comes across obviously as a psychotic villain that's kind of, he stutters lots, he just comes across as being slightly, you know, mental, basically, an absolute nutcase that releases his Doomsday, having created him out of Zod, and just unleashes him onto the world to watch them fight and watch the chaos that ensues. Obviously now we've got to a point where he's now bald, and he's been arrested, and part of the other thing, he felt more like a Batman enemy than he did a Superman enemy, which really kind of didn't make any sense. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it'll be good to see if they go on to develop that. I was kind of a little bit disappointed they put Doomsday into this one, because actually I think that Doomsday would have been worthy of his own film and been fleshed out a little bit more, because he's kind of chucked in at the end. They have a big climactic fight sequence, and that's it. Doomsday's defeated, when he's a much bigger enemy than that for Superman. All in all, I'd recommend that people go and see the film. it has its moments. It's not one of these that when you leave the cinema you're like, oh my god, that was just absolutely brilliant, like you get with some of the say more Marvel ones. I actually liked Man of Steel, and know it didn't get particularly brilliant reviews. I've watched it a few times. I actually quite liked that. I love the character as General Zod. Obviously, with all these films, it's kind of over the top. They blow up half of Manhattan, Metropolis, which seems to be spectacularly rebuilt by the time you get to this film, which again is just kind of stupid. But you know, you can kind of forgive parts of those bits. But I think that they tried to put in too many things all at once rather than build it up. And maybe if we'd had a Wonder Woman film, if we'd had the Aquaman film already, if we'd had you know, the Flash film or series or whatever they're doing with the Flash, if we'd had them first and then they'd put them in, it may have made a little bit more sense as to why Wonder Woman had suddenly just appeared, why the Flash was involved. As it is, they're largely unexplained, which is, you know, still, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, the next one is likely, they're going to release Aquaman. I would imagine the next big franchise one will be the Justice League. So it will be interesting to see how they develop the storyline, but this film felt very much like a filler for the next film. All in all, so a guy when I came out the cinema asked me what I'd seen and said, instant reaction, what was my feeling at the time for it? I said I thought it was quite a good film, not the best I've ever seen, and he said to me out of 10, I gave it a 7. I think it was okay, certainly not one of the best superhero films I've seen, but by no means the worst. I mean, when you think of X-Men 3 Last Stand, terrible film, you know, there are far worse than this one. It's just not quite as hyped and as, you know, not as good as it was hyped out to be, which was kind of disappointing. And watch it, it is good, just don't think it's going to be the best film you've ever seen. I think perhaps Justice League as the next film will be potentially a lot better than this one, and obviously Batman's got a lot to live up to with obviously films like The Dark Knight that came out, which was absolutely brilliant, but still, guys, go and see it. It's not a bad film. It's one of those that perhaps you don't need to see at the cinema. People said to me, can you wait till it comes out on DVD? I'd almost wait until it comes out on the DVD to be able to watch it with the additional 30 minutes content as the R-rated, so you get the whole experience rather than missing half an hour and having to watch it a second time to understand what the differences were. But still, anyway, I'll be doing more reviews on sort of like films. That's just my sort of, you know, 5 cents on what this film's about and how good it is. I'm going to be certainly, I'm looking forward to Civil War, I'm looking forward to X-Men Apocalypse. I absolutely love the X-Men franchise, I think that's really good. Anybody that's not watched some of the Marvel ones that are coming out on Netflix, like Daredevil, really good. First season was brilliant. Second season, I'm about halfway through it, it's not quite as good as the first season, although the Punisher character is brilliant. You know, there's a lot of these coming out. Obviously, Game of Thrones is coming up next as well. I'm going to do a lot more of these sort of reviews on these things. I watch all these kind of films. I'll be doing game reviews and all sorts of like that. So yeah, anyway, guys, just my 5 cents. You know, I'd be interested to know what you guys think as well. So by all means, leave me comments in the description below. Leave me comments below. I'll be happy to obviously have a conversation with you guys and see what you think as well. So if you like the video, obviously give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing a lot more of this. So yeah, catch you guys next time. Cheers.